Canto 33, Circle 9, Cositas, Compound Fraud. Round 2, Antenora, the treacherous to country. Round 3, Ptolomea, the treacherous to guests and hosts. The sinner raised his mouth from his grim repast and wiped it on the hair of the bloody head whose nape he had all but eaten away. At last he began to speak. You ask me to renew a grief so desperate that the very thought of speaking of it tears my heart in two. But if my words may be a seed that bears the fruit of infamy for him I gnaw, I shall weep. But tell my story through my tears. Who you may be, and by what powers you reach into this underworld, I cannot guess. But you seem to me a Florentine by your speech. I was Count Ugolino, and I must explain. This revered grace is the Archbishop Ruggieri. Now, I will tell you why I gnaw his brain. That I, who trusted him, had to undergo imprisonment and death through his treachery. You will know already. What you cannot know, that is, the lingering inhumanity of the death I suffered, you shall hear it in full. Then judge for yourself if he has injured me. A narrow window in that coop of stone, now called the Tower of Hunger for my sake, within which others yet must pace alone, had shown me several waning moons already between its bars, when I slept the evil sleep in which the veil of the future parted for me. This beast appeared as master of a hunt, chasing the wolf and his whelps across the mountain that hides Lucca from Pisa. Out in front of the starved and shrewd and avid pack he had placed Gualladini and Sisamondi and Lanfranchi to point his prey. The father and sons had raced a brief course only when they failed of breath and seemed to weaken. Then I thought I saw their flanks ripped open by the hound's fierce teeth. Before the dawn, the dream still in my head, I woke and heard my sons who were there with me cry from their troubled sleep, asking for bread. You are cruelty itself if you can keep your tears back at the thought of what foreboding stirred in my heart. And if you do not weep at what you are used to weeping. The hour when food used to be brought drew near. They were now awake, and each was anxious from his dream's dark mood. And from the base of that horrible tower I heard the sounds of hammers nailing up gates. I stared at my sons' faces without a word. I did not weep. I had turned stone inside. They wept. What ails you, father? You look so strange, my little Anselm, youngest of them, cried. But I did not speak a word nor shed a tear, not all that day nor all the endless night, until I saw another sun appear. When a tiny ray leaked into that dark prison, and I saw staring back from their four faces the terror and the wasting of my own, I bit my hands in helpless grief, and they, thinking I chewed myself for hunger, rose suddenly together. I heard them say, Father, it would give us much less pain if you ate us. It was you who put upon us this sorry flesh. Now strip it off again. I calmed myself to spare them. Ah, hard earth, why did you not yawn open? All that day and the next we sat in silence. On the fourth, Gatto, the eldest, fell before me and cried, stretched at my feet upon that prison floor, Father, why don't you help me? There he died. And just as you see me, I saw them fall, one by one, on the fifth day and the sixth. Then, already blind, I began to crawl from body to body, shaking them frantically. 2 days I called their names, and they were dead. Then fasting overcame my grief and me. He narrowed his eyes to slits when he was done, and he seized the skull again between his teeth, grinding it as a mastiff grinds a bone. Ah, Pisa, foulest blemish on the land, where sea sounds sweet and clear, since those nearby you are slow to blast the ground on which you stand. May Caprara and Gorgona drift from place and dam the flooding Arno at its mouth until it drowns the last of your foul race. For if to Ugolino falls the censure for having betrayed your castles. You, for your part, should not have put his sons to such a torture. You modern Thebes, those tender lives you split, Brigada, Uguccione, and the others I mentioned earlier, were too young for guilt. We passed on further. Where the frozen mine entombs another crew in greater pain, these wraiths are not bent over, but lie supine. Their very weeping closes up their eyes, and the grief that finds no outlet for its tears turns inward to increase their agonies. For the first time that they shed not constantly in their eye sockets, and as they freeze they form a crystal visor above the cavity. And despite the fact that standing in that place I had become as numb as any callus, and all sensation had faded from my face, somehow I felt a wind begin to blow, whereat I said, Master, what stirs this wind? Is not all heat extinguished here below? And the master said to me, Soon you will be where your own eyes will see the source and cause and give you their own answer to the mystery. And one of those locked in that icy maw cried out to us as we passed, O soul so cruel that you are sent to the last post of all, relieve me for a little from pain of this hard veil. Let my heart weep a while before the weeping frees my eyes again. And I, to him, If you would have my service, tell me your name. Then if I do not help you, may I descend to the last rim of the ice. I am Friar Alberigo, he answered, therefore. The same who called for the fruits from the bad garden. Here I am given dates for figs full store. What? Are you dead already? I said to him. And he then, How my body stands in the world I do not know. So privileged is this rim of Ptolemaea that often souls fall to it before dark Atropos has cut their thread. And that you may more willingly free my spirit of this glaze of frozen tears that shrouds my face, I will tell you this. When a soul betrays as I did, it falls from flesh, and a demon takes its place, ruling the body till its time is spent. The ruined soul rains down into this cistern. So, I believe, there is still evident in the world above all that is fair and mortal of this black shade who winters here behind me. If you have only recently crossed the portal from that sweet world, you surely must have known his body. Branca Doria is his name, and many years have passed since he rained down. I think you are trying to take me in, I said. Ser Branca Doria is a living man. He eats, he drinks, he fills his clothes and his bed. Michael Zanke had not yet reached the ditch of the black talons, the frozen wraith replied. There where the sinners thicken in hot pitch, when this one left his body to a devil, and did his nephew a second in treachery, and plumbed like lead through space to this dead level. But now reach out your hand, and let me cry. And I did not keep the promise I had made, for to be rude to him was courtesy. Ah, men of Genoa, souls of little worth, corrupted from the custom of righteousness, why have you not been driven from earth? For there beside the blackest soul of all, Romagna's evil plain, lies one of yours, bathing his filthy soul in the eternal glacier of Cocytus for his foul crime, while he seems yet alive in world and time.